Hey everyone, my name is Shanice and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about just how I read as much as I do with the full-time job that I have and the lifestyle that I live. I personally don't think that I read that much, but obviously to those of you who maybe don't read as much, or reading as a hobby is kind of a new thing for you, or compared to most YouTubers or most booktubers rather, I don't read that much at all. Like I see some of their monthly wrap-ups and they're reading 20, 30 books, finishing 200, 300 books per year. Frankly, I'm not really interested in getting my numbers that high. It just doesn't work for me. And so just for a little personal overview, in 2020 I read 100 books. In 2021 I read 76 books. In 2022, last year, I read 84 books. And this year, so far, I've read 13 books as of today. January of this year, I read 9 books, and so far in this month, I have read 4 books. And so far in this month of February, I have read 4 books, and I'm about to finish a 5th one shortly after this video, and I'm pretty positive I'm going to finish one more before the month ends. Today is Sunday, and so I have 2 more days left. Again, to a lot of people, this is not reading much at all. But for me, again, with what I do in my week, I'm actually pretty proud of myself. To outline what my normal week looks like now that I have this full-time job, I work full-time. My hours are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I commute to work. I take public transit, which is no fun, but that is about an hour and a half each way. So I spent about 3 hours commuting to and from work. And that is usually where I do the bulk of my reading. I will admit though that my morning commute, I rarely focused on reading. I wake up at 5:30. When I'm on my bus to the city, I have zero interest in doing anything but like mentally preparing myself for another day going to work. I don't want stories, I don't want anything. I just kind of want to look out the window and decompress and again prepare myself. There was only one time so far where I did genuinely want to pick up a book, and that was with A Clash of Kings, which I finished this month. I was listening to the audiobook while I was physically reading, and I just really loved the story, and I didn't mind like starting my day catching up on some reading. And it's a big book, so in the end it sort of helped me out that I was able to fit more reading. So yeah, on average, for 5 days of the week, I am guaranteed to read for about 1 hour. Then when I get home, frankly, I'm physically, mentally, and psychologically exhausted. I schedule about 30 minutes at least of practicing my guitar, take about an hour from when I get home, which is around 6, to eat dinner, prepare lunch for the next day, prepare my outfit for the next day, get everything ready so that in the morning I do nothing but just pick stuff up and put them on, or just grab things and go. So from around 7:30 until 10 is usually when I will read a little bit more, for I would say another hour, and then like watch a TV show or some videos or start a movie, finish a movie. So for the weekdays, I'm guaranteed to read between 5 to 10 hours. Then on my weekends, my hobbies are pretty much what I just said: watching movies, watching TV, practicing my guitar, reading. I am an introvert, I'm a homebody, like I'm having so much fun doing these things, and the weekend is really me, again, decompressing, mentally preparing myself for yet another work week. And yeah, reading is what I do for fun because I love it. So I try to fit even more reading in my weekends. So I would say maybe I read for 3 hours Saturday and then maybe 3 hours Sunday. It depends because I have errands to run. Sometimes I go places because I do leave the house occasionally. It all depends, but yeah, I try to fit more reading in. Maybe I would say 6 more hours on the weekends, but that's not ever a guarantee. And so one unofficial tip that I would give if people want to read more, fit more time for reading in their week, is one, literally scheduling reading for yourself and two, pre-selecting some of the books that you want to read for a month, let's say, and breaking down those novels into shorter reading chunks that you could like spread throughout the month. So, for example, for me, I have a big book challenge that I give myself. So every month I read one big chunky book. A Clash of Kings was my February read. My March read is going to be Middlemarch. Alongside that, I read a short story collection. I think the most short stories that a collection I've read so far has been 16. And I try to read one short story every day until obviously the collection ends. And that is more than likely going to be the book that I pick up on my bus ride, on my commute home. And then my last challenge for myself every month is one Latin American book. Usually in Spanish. I have obtained some books in Portuguese, so some will be in Portuguese. And what I do and what I found has helped me finish more books in a month is, like I said, split up the one novel into little reading chunks every day for the month, have it spread out in the month. So instead of A Clash of Kings being this daunting, almost 1,000 page book, what I did was I read 35 pages every day. And with Middlemarch, I've already planned this. It has a little under 800 pages, and I will end up reading 26 pages every single day in the month of March. That already is not daunting at all. If I had just picked up Middlemarch and started reading it in March, I would feel so overwhelmed. I would feel a little demoralized, like I'm never going to finish this. It's going to be the only thing that I read in the month. But breaking it down just helps me. Scheduling it this way guarantees that I read at least 3 books per month. And then for the weekends, which does include Friday nights, because I'm usually in a great mood on Friday because it's Friday, because I have more time to read, that's usually when I pick up another book. So once I finish my page count for the big book, my one short story, and the few pages of my Latin American book, I didn't mention the example for March, but for example, next month I'm going to be reading Madame Sui, and I will end up reading 11 pages every day for the month of March, which is nothing. I can't recommend this method enough. Like it really does help. And again, it guarantees that you finish at least 1 to 3 books every month. So back to reading on the weekends. This is, like I said, when I maybe pick up another book that isn't one of my challenge reads. Another thing that helps me and has been a lifesaver in reading more and accomplishing my reading goals for every month, audiobooks. Audiobooks. I am not yet a person who can just read or listen to an audiobook on its own. I concentrate more if I'm listening to it while I'm physically reading the book too. That's what I did with Game of Thrones, and honestly, it is a lifesaver. One, it's like an art form in itself. I think audiobook narrators deserve so much more credit than they are getting. It's like a full performance. It's like listening to a podcast or something. But I am just naturally a more visual learner. That is why I need to listen while I am physically reading. For other people, it may not be that way, so just see what works for you. And what's so great about audiobooks is that you can increase the speed of the narration. And the speed that I listen to, if you hear it, you're gonna think you're crazy, but it works for me and I've gotten used to it. I listen to books at 2.25 times the speed. You'd be surprised how slow the narrators read in their normal speed. So 2.25 might sound like, how's it possible that you're even understanding anything that they're saying? But really, once you get used to it, once your ear gets accustomed to that speed, it's no problem at all. And again, like the normal speed is quite slow. They will usually be speaking a little bit like this and emphasizing all of the words on the page, which is beautiful, but I don't have all the time for all those pauses in between words. So the 2.5 most of the times actually sounds like how people normally speak. And also, I've realized that if I were just reading, the way that I read, or like the voice in my head, is actually about 2.25 speed, if not actually faster than that. So it's really not as shocking as it may sound. And if my audiobook coincides with a book I'm reading on my commute, it helps so much because I get really grumpy when there's traffic, which is usually always, which distracts me. It puts me in a bad mood. There are usually loud people on the bus. There are just a lot of distractions. So having, my earbuds in and just kind of focusing my attention on my book with a narrator with me is amazing. And listening to the book in 2.25 speed on the weekends is great because, like the last book that I just read, The Other Black Girl, the audiobook was around 15 hours or so. So with the increased speed, that's about 7 hours, which I can totally do on a weekend. So in addition to the 3 that I'm guaranteed to finish in a month, I'm guaranteed to read potentially 3 more books. So around an average of 6 books every month, which to me is great, and I'm usually able to read just a little bit more than that too. Another thing that helps me read more or just stick to my challenges is focusing more on the titles and the content that I'm reading rather than the number. I technically do have a yearly challenge on Goodreads, but that only accounts for the 3 books that I challenge myself to read every month in the year. So my goal for the year has usually been like 36 books. I think this year I bumped it up to 40, just because I know I'm going to read more than the 3 designated books every month. But I would never set my challenge to like 100 or 200, not because I can't reach them. I mean, I don't want to read 200 books a month, so like I know I can't reach that, but it's more because I am content with just reading my challenge book because I'm excited to read those books. It's not the number of books that I'm reading, it's just the authors that I'm going to discover, the new characters that I'm going to become friends with, as cheesy as that sounds. So just the books themselves make me excited to read, not that, oh, I'm going to sound so well read because I'm reading, 80 books a year. I really couldn't care less. Another tip that kind of aligns itself with this one is just do it for you. Do not compare yourself to other people. If you read 5 books a year and you normally didn't read at all, that's amazing. Be realistic with yourself too. Like, don't start off being someone who like never read at all and then make a goal of reading 100 books a year. Is that doable? Sure. Is it the most realistic? Probably not. Just understand what your interests are, know what your schedule is, try to make reading something that you can look forward to, change your mindset instead of thinking that, oh God, you have to sacrifice something to read a book because now you want to read more. If you're approaching it like that, you're gonna probably fail. Just think of reading as something that can enhance your knowledge base and add to your hobbies and your worldview. And lastly, don't be too hard on yourself if you don't achieve the goal that you set for yourself. For example, this month I really had hoped to read the 3rd book in the Neapolitan Quartet as a reread. I really wanted to get to this book called Antonio, which is a Brazilian novel. I've had it for I think a year or 2, and I really, really wanted to get to it. It's not gonna happen. I still have Prince Harry's Spare. Haven't read it yet. Is not gonna happen this month either. Now, maybe a few years ago, I would have like beat myself up over it, considered myself a failure for not reading, 10, 15 books this month. I think, like I said, total, I'm probably just gonna read 6 for February. But I'm cool with that because for the most part, I've had an outstanding reading month. Nothing, with the exception of 1 book, has been bad or disappointing in any way. Like, Sure, maybe there are going to be other people who have finished 20 books in February. I read 6 and I enjoyed 90% of them, so I don't have any complaints. So yeah, just be kind to yourself. Next month is another month that you can pick up a book. Months are themselves arbitrary time markers. Like, nothing is stopping you really from picking up a book. If you can't do it by February 28th, March 1st is right there. And just try to keep it fun. Yes, challenges are good. I give myself reading challenges all the time. But this is a hobby. It is ultimately supposed to be fun. And yeah, approaching it with that mindset is going to help you in the long run. So yeah, that is a brief explanation of how I read as much as I do with the schedule that I have, with a few tips thrown in here and there to maybe help you read a little bit more. I hope some of these tips were helpful to you, and at the very least, I hope I've explained it well enough just how I can read 9, 10 books every month. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your support, and I will see you all next time. Bye.